All right, good morning. This is Ethan with BIMsmith. This is our Revit 2022 launch day video highlighting some of the new features of Revit 2022. I know we've all been waiting here with bated breath to see what features and improvements Autodesk would come out with for their newest version of Revit. And I think we've got some pretty good ones today. So let's get started. If you want to see more content like this, don't forget to like and follow BIMsmith for more. All right, so first up, let's talk about walls. So Autodesk has been making some steady improvements in wall functionality. They started last year with sloped walls, and this year they're carrying on the tradition by giving us kind of more things to do with basic walls. So here we have just a very simple wall layer here, and you all remember the drop down from last year where you can make it vertical or you can make it slanted. That's of course still here. You can go ahead and slant that wall just like you could in Revit 2021. But there's a third option now, which is tapered. And so you can pull in that option, and now it gives you some additional parameters. Each wall that you want to make tapered is actually going to have to be overridden in type properties first. So let's head over there just to check out how that works. So likewise here in your assembly editor, there's an additional checkbox field over here on the side that says variable. So I've just made my core a variable layer, hit that little checkbox, which allows me to make this wall tapered. So we're going to hit that override button over here, and you'll see that I get a couple more grips. So of course I can just click and drag, which is quick and easy to show you guys how to make this wall taper. And that's pretty quick, pretty easy, pretty painless right there to make this wall tapered. Of course you can get a little more precise with it. So we can just kind of make that even on both sides. And right away we see we have a tapered wall. So let's see what else we can do with it. Let's create a wall sweep, see how that behaves. So you'll notice that this wall sweep is aligned with that tapered face, which is pretty cool. Pretty nice right there. So if I want to drag that out, it'll just get more angled. And it's going to look accurate in elevation, section, and all the rest of those things. So we see that it is, in fact, a tapered wall. That is pretty darn cool, guys. All right, so let's see what that section looks like. If I drag my box in there, yep, we can see that there is, in fact, a core layer that has become tapered with that block hatch to it. And then 2 layers of gypsum on either side that kind of maintain their size. That is pretty cool, guys. All right, so, you know, there's obviously a few more things we probably want to check out here. So let's go ahead and put a door in this wall just to see what happens. Okay, so that's a little bit outside my section box. Maybe I need to make this wall a little bit bigger. Go ahead and drag that out. Okay. So yeah, may need to do a little bit of customization here with this door, making sure that it's going to sit with maybe the untapered side of it in the family editor. Maybe just turning off the trim on the side of the tapered side of that wall. But yeah, you can see that gets us a little bit closer to doing what we want to do. All right, so it's not the only improvement that Autodesk has added to walls in this release. We can also now turn on and off the visibility of non-core layers. So I know you've probably had the great water cooler debate, right? Do you model paint or do you not model paint? Well, this might actually put that question to bed, guys. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and make this a standard vertical wall again, though you wouldn't have to. This does work with vertical walls. I'm going to go ahead and draw a couple more walls here. And then I hit VG, Visibility Graphics, pull this up, and if I head on down to Walls, expand it, you'll see that now I have a checkbox for non-core layers. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn that off. Sure enough, we have just the core of the walls. So that's pretty nice. I know a lot of people don't necessarily want to see those finished layers, whether it's because we've modeled them thicker than they are in reality for Revit's sake, or what have you. But this is much simpler in order to just kind of get your dimensions to snap to the faces of the core. If that's kind of your firm's standard, this makes it very, very simple. Kind of easy for documentation purposes. Of course, those layers are still there. They're just turned off. So you can still get all of the great features of material takeoffs and schedules and things like that. So that's kind of a quick look at how walls work in Revit 2022. All right, so those are some of the improvements to walls. Now let's talk a little bit about some improvements to annotations. So one of the big annotation improvements is going to be multi-hosted tags. So you can see over here, I've got a series of windows in this wall, and I want to go ahead and just tag this window once instead of having all these different tags here going on. So I'm going to go ahead and show my leader line so that you know exactly what I'm tagging. And then you'll notice up here in the ribbon, I've got add and remove hosts. So I'm going to go ahead and click that button and start adding windows. So you can see that immediately I start to get some additional leaders, which is pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and just click back on modify, and I can move this around. You'll see my leaders are all kind of adjusting. Now, if I wanted to kind of drag these down, maybe make this annotation look a little less crazy, I can do that. Might also be nice, though, if I was to do something maybe more like this. Yeah, there we go. Maybe that's how I want to do that. Keep everything a little bit more orthogonal. But now I've got just one tag tagging 4 windows. So this can be helpful in spots where you just don't have a lot of space. Maybe I don't want this in the middle of all these dimensions. I can drag it out over here and then just go ahead and tag all these windows with one tag. Just different options, but I think this adds some additional flexibility to tagging and just kind of overall improvements. So of course this is just kind of your basic type mark, but you could obviously do this with a number of other shared parameters, which could be pretty nice. So the same thing of course works with wall tags. I can go ahead and tag some different walls, though I imagine eventually I'm going to tag a wall of a different type. And then I'm actually going to run into another new feature, which is the varies fill within families of the same category, but with different type or instance parameters. So since this is a type mark, you're not going to see it here. But obviously, if you look over in my properties box, they have different heights and different top constraints. So instead of getting an empty field like we have traditionally in Revit, we now get a top constraint with a varies field. So this way you kind of know that there's a couple different things going on here, and it may give you some pause before you just type in something that you don't want to. So that's good. That might cut down on some errors in firms. I think that could be a really nice feature. Another improvement for annotations is going to be adding prefixes and suffixes to dimensions by type. So that's an interesting idea. So say you wanted to use a specific dimension style for maybe an overall dimension. You could go ahead and create a dimension style called overall, and then down in the dimension prefix and suffix type parameters, you could go ahead and put in the text that says overall. And so what that's going to do is go ahead and say, this is my, well, that's actually not an overall dimension, that's just a grid dimension. But if it were an overall dimension, you could go ahead and just flag that by type. So that way you don't have to go in and actually, manually edit the suffix. Although you can still add a suffix to this, so we can make it overall-ish, because it's actually just going to the grid lines. So that's a couple of the improvements that they've made to annotations. I think these could really kind of speed up workflows and processes. These are some pretty nice features here. All right, so that was a little bit about annotations. Now let's talk a little bit about schedules. So one of the big improvements in Revit 2022 is going to be multi-category schedules that allow you to schedule subcategories. So you'll notice that there's some additional options here. So in this case, this would be, I'm showing you how you can get to subcategories and filter by fascias and wall sweeps, which are of course subcategories of walls and roofs. Of course, if you did this, you would only find things that are both roofs and walls, so that's not really very helpful. So we're going to go ahead and set these to none, or set this back to family and type. And so you can see here, I can come in and I can find something. So let's say I had a wall sweep and a fascia that were actually both named the same thing, right? I could just go ahead and type in cornice, and we would get any of those families that we have. So this is probably not the best project to show that in, but just know that that's available, and try that out maybe on something with some of those subcategories on it. Another new feature is the ability to create door schedules, or a single schedule on multiple multiple sheets, so split schedules across sheets. And so this kind of works the same way as when you create dependent views. This is sort of a dependent schedule view. So I'm going to go ahead, and it's up here on the ribbon. You just click split and place. So we go ahead and we split this and we put it on different sheets. You have two different options, split evenly or split custom. So you'll notice that the unit down here is not in rows, but in height. I think a good future feature for this is probably you just want to have 10 rows of the schedule, so you would just type in 10 rows. Of course, if you know what your scale is, you can probably get there as well. But I'm going to go ahead and type in custom, because that'll actually allow me to adjust it after the fact on the fly. I'm going to set this to like 8 inches for now, and we're going to go ahead and hit split in place. And so it's going to open up a sheet view, which is my first floor. I'm just going to go ahead and place this view, and then it will place the rest of the schedule in the exact same spot on my second sheet. So it's just going to be on top of all this other stuff over here. Now you'll notice that it's split in kind of in the middle of the first floor. So say I wanted my door schedule on this sheet to have all the doors on the first floor. Well, I can actually just drag this down to 132B right here. And so now I've got all of my first floor doors on the same view as my sheet. So you could do this for room finishes. You could do this for door schedules, things like that. This works great, obviously, if you have a schedule that's just so massive and won't fit on one sheet. But it also maybe just can help you get the right information next to the right plan. And yet, if I head back over to my door schedule, everything is together and still kind of in one place, which is helpful, I think, from just keeping everything organized and not having 6 different door schedules over here in your schedules drop down. So I think this is a great improvement as well. It'll help keep things a little bit more organized. So let's go ahead and talk about the grids in 3D. So I think you probably already noticed this when I was working on my wall, but now you can use grids in 3D as references, just the way that they introduced levels as references a couple years back. If I go ahead and get rid of my section box, you're going to see that I've got all my building grids out here now. I can select them. I can edit them in 3D on the fly. I can see kind of where they slice through the building, and it helps keep me organized even when I'm working in a 3D view. So that's a great feature of being able to kind of see where your levels, your grids intersect, kind of get that information all in 3D. All right, so that was a little bit about the schedules in Revit 2022. Now let's talk a little bit about materials in the material browser. So there's a very, very small but very helpful adjustment that they've made to the material browser. So the material browser will actually remember now the last tab that you had open when you were using it. So I was in the Appearance tab there, so when I click on the Materials button again, Appearances pops up again. So this was not the default behavior before, traditionally. So this could be pretty nice, especially if you're trying to do the same thing over and over again. It's kind of annoying to always have to click over to Appearance. So this should save us at least a couple of clicks, which is pretty nice. All right, so the very last feature that I wanted to kind of show was they've, in the last few years, Autodesk has been adding additional support for PDFs. So we were able to import PDFs, and now we're actually able to create PDF files directly from Revit without the use of a separate PDF printer or PDF driver. So this way, you don't have to use Adobe or Bluebeam or any of those other pay for options. There's now a native option directly in Revit. And so it's very similar, of course, to being able to print. You can set up sheet sets, which the default project does not. But I'm going to go ahead and find my 2 sheets, go ahead and check those. And then we're going to go from there. So, there's different setup options. You can name it. You can put it into a specific location, combine them. Page size, it'll actually use the sheet size, which is pretty nice. I'm going to zoom 100% of size, center it, of course, color, all of these things. And so, there's also some of these options down here that have happened for a long time. So view links in blue. So that's kind of the way that links currently appear in Revit. We can hide unreferenced view tags, which is a pretty nice option. Region edges mask coincident lines. Yeah, let's go ahead and check that, and replace halftone with thin lines. So if your printer doesn't support printing in gray or whatever, you can do that. But I'm just going to go ahead and leave it like that. So I'm going to export this PDF, and I'm going to save those settings. So this will pop up in just a second. All right, and since this has come straight out of Revit, just like you would expect, the section tags are all linked up. All the different views and links work with one another. So if I want to go back to my first floor plan, I can do that. And it's all to scale and on the right sheets. So yeah, no more printing off PDFs that don't have all of Revit's functionality to them, and or having to use something free that you got off the internet. Now we have native PDF exporting, which is again pretty exciting. All right, so leave me some comments. What do you think of Revit 2022? Are these the features you were hoping for? These look like some pretty good features to me, to us here at BIMsmith. We're looking forward to getting our hands on some of the additional API features, of course, some of the additional options that are going to be available to us in Dynamo. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe to BIMsmith for more content like this.